Welcome. Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on a company you've probably never heard of, but whose work impacts your life pretty much every day. We're talking about Transrail, one of those invisible titans that are quite literally building the world around us. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? How does the electricity that's powering your screen right now get from a power plant hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away? Or how does a bullet train, zipping along, get the juice it needs? These are massive, massive engineering projects happening all around us, mostly out of sight.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the incredible global demand for this stuff. Then, we'll meet Transrail, a huge player in this space. We'll break down what they actually do, check out the numbers that are fueling their growth, and finally, map out just how far their work stretches across the globe.
All right, let's jump right in. Because to really get what a company like Transrail is all about, you first have to understand the enormous, worldwide need that they are here to solve. Let's start with a number that's, well, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. 500 gigawatts. Now, to put that in perspective, just 1 gigawatt can power a pretty big city. So we are talking about enough new energy to power hundreds of cities. That is India's goal for new renewable energy by 2030. And all that power? It needs a superhighway to get from the solar farm or wind turbine to you. And look, this isn't just an India story, not at all. The International Energy Agency is basically sending up a flare saying that if we want to hit our global climate targets, we have to double the money we're spending on our electrical grids by 2030. The demand is everywhere. And honestly, it's urgent.
So, who actually steps up to build all this? Well, that brings us to companies like Transrail. They're one of the big answers to that massive global question we just laid out.
You know, a company's direction, it really comes from the top. And in this case, you've got the founder, Digambar Bagde, still at the helm. This is someone with 5 decades of experience in the industry. The strategy seems pretty clear. Take all that hard-won experience and point it directly at what's coming next. And that strategy, it has led to some incredible scale. Just look at this number. Transrail isn't just some local or even a regional company. They're working in 59 countries, all over the world. And here's a stat that just blows my mind. They've built over 35,000 circuit kilometers of transmission lines. If you're trying to picture that, that's almost enough high-voltage cable to wrap around the entire planet Earth. Just think about that. This kind of expertise, it doesn't just happen overnight. You can see their journey right here. They start out in '84, spend decades building a solid foundation, and then, boom, in 2009, they jump onto the global stage. A few years later, they make a big move into a whole new sector with railways. And just this year, they've hit another huge milestone by going public. It's a story of smart, patient expansion. Okay, so we've seen the why, the huge demand, and the who, the company's background, but what does Transrail actually do? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, their blueprint for building our future. So, their whole world revolves around this one acronym, EPC. It stands for Engineering, Procurement, and Construction. But really, it's a simple idea. It means one company handles everything. They do the design, they buy all the materials, and they do the actual building. At the end, they just hand over the keys to a finished project. It's what they call a turnkey solution. All right, so at its heart, the absolute core of the company is power transmission and distribution. T&D. This is the bread and butter, moving massive amounts of electricity from point A to point B. And look, they're not just assembling parts here. They're in deep. They can build the highest voltage lines in the world. They build the complex substations needed to manage that power. And get this, they even manufacture their own towers and conductors. That gives them this incredible control over the whole process, from quality to deadlines. But they're not a one-trick pony. They've taken that EPC know-how and branched out. In civil construction, they're building things like bridges and tunnels. And in railways, a huge growth area, they're doing the really complex overhead power systems for major projects, including India's very first bullet train. So, the big question, does all this work actually pay off? Let's get into the engine of their growth, because honestly, the numbers from their latest financials, they tell a really, really powerful story. First up, revenue. And what you're seeing here, it's just a massive jump. Their revenue from operations shot up 81%, from around 916 crores, that's about 110 million US dollars, to over 1,600 crores in 1 year. That is just explosive growth, no matter how you slice it.
Okay, revenue is one thing, but here's the real kicker. Are they actually making money? Oh yeah. In fact, their profit grew even faster than their revenue, up 105%. This isn't just growth for the sake of growth. This is efficient, healthy growth. It tells you they know how to manage their costs and are getting better and better at it.
Now this number, this might be the most important one on the screen for understanding where they're headed. This is their order book. It's the pipeline of confirmed future work. At over 14,600 crores, that's nearly 1.8 billion US dollars and growing at 44% in a year. It shows the demand for what they do isn't just strong, it's actually accelerating.
So where is all that future work coming from? That nearly $1.8 billion pipeline? Well, it's a really healthy mix. You've got a strong domestic base at 60%, but it's balanced with a huge 40% slice of international projects. That's great to see. It means they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. That international slice of the pie is worth taking a closer look at. So let's zoom in on their global footprint and see where this work is actually happening on the ground. I mean, these aren't just lines on a spreadsheet. We're talking about real, on-the-ground, game-changing projects. They're putting up critical high-voltage lines in places like Kavda for Adani, building power infrastructure across Africa and Eswatini and Tanzania, constructing a massive 10-kilometer-long bridge in Bihar, and providing key parts for that bullet train. This is the stuff that literally builds nations. So what's next? Where do they go from here? Well, their game plan is actually super clear, and it builds on everything we've just talked about. 1, double down on what they do best, power lines. 2, keep branching out into related areas. 3, stay on the cutting edge with new tech. And 4, push even harder into the international market. It's a solid playbook for growth. And really, that brings us to the big picture. These invisible networks of steel and wire, the ones that power our jobs, our homes, our entire lives, they're only becoming more important. So as the whole world gears up for this massive shift in energy and infrastructure, the real question isn't if it will be built. The question is, who has what it takes to rise to that challenge and build our future?